The colony planet Aurora 5 had never seen a day like this. It was festival day. Streets were full of music, colored ribbons, and food stalls. Children chased each other through the crowd, their laughter mixing with the sound of drums. Traders shouted prices for sweet fruit and cold drinks. The air smelled of grilled meat and warm bread. Above, the twin suns shone brightly in the pale blue sky. For the people of Aurora 5, life felt safe. The war rumors from other star systems seemed far away, but then everything changed. The sky turns black. It began as a shadow. At first, people thought clouds were passing overhead. But the shadow grew darker, wider, and colder. The music slowed. The laughter faded. Heads tilted upward. The suns were gone. In their place, an enormous wall of metal covered the sky. It stretched from one horizon to the other, a fleet of ships so massive they blocked daylight itself. The largest ship at the center was shaped like a claw, its surface covered in strange, glowing lines. A deep vibration rolled through the ground. Windows rattled. Cups fell from tables. Then, every screen, every device, every speaker on the planet came alive at once. The voice from above. The voice was deep, metallic, and cold. Humans of Aurora 5, I am High Commander Varric of the Vakshar Dominion. Your species has been judged. You have one cycle to surrender your world and all military forces, or be erased. People froze. Mothers clutched children. Soldiers in the crowd reached for their units. The voice continued, we have destroyed 12 civilizations greater than yours. You will not survive us. Obey or vanish. The message ended. The silence that followed felt heavier than the shadow above. Panic and orders. The streets exploded into chaos. Some ran for shelter, some for the spaceports. Others simply stood, staring at the ship's dot in the capital city's government tower. Alarms blared. President Elena Vargas was already in the war room, surrounded by generals and ministers. We're receiving the same message from every colony, said General Stroud, his voice tight. They've hit all outer systems at once. Have we made contact? The president asked. No, they refuse any reply except surrender, Stroud said. Our fleets are outnumbered 10-1. The president looked at the dark screen in front of her. Then we need someone who can make them listen. An aide hesitated. There's only one man who might, but he's retired. The name. That changed the room. President Vargas turned. You mean Marcus Halley? The aide nodded. Yes, ma'am. He's the only human to ever negotiate peace with a warlike empire without firing a shot. He has a reputation. Stroud frowned. He also quit the service 10 years ago and swore never to return. Then you'd better convince him, Vargas said. The man in the hills far from the city. Marcus Halley lived alone in the hills. His home was small, made of stone and wood. He grew his own food, kept no holoscreens, and spoke to no one unless necessary. That afternoon, as he worked in his garden, a shadow passed over him. But this shadow was smaller, the landing craft of the Presidential Guard. 2 soldiers stepped out. Behind them came a tall, slim woman in a dark coat. President Vargas herself. Mr. Halley, she said. Marcus stood, wiping soil from his hands. His hair was silver now, his face lined, but his eyes were sharp. Madam President, it must be bad if you came yourself. They've given us one cycle, she said. The Vakshar Dominion. Marcus's expression did not change, but his eyes narrowed slightly. I know them. Then you know what's at stake, Vargas said. We need you. Marcus was silent for a moment, looking past her at the distant horizon. Finally, he spoke. If they think they know humans, they are wrong. Back to the war room. Hours later, Marcus walked into the war room. Generals eyed him with suspicion. To them, he was an outsider, a diplomat, not a soldier. Stroud leaned to another general. This is who we're trusting with our survival? An old man with words? Marcus ignored them. Show me the fleet, he said. A hologram appeared. Hundreds of Vokshar warships surrounding Aurora 5 and its moons. Marcus studied it carefully. They're not here to negotiate. They're here to make an example of us. We already know that, Stroud snapped. Marcus looked at him. Then you also know there's only one way to stop them before the killing starts. And that is, Vargas asked, face their leader. In person. The suicide mission. Room went silent. You can't just walk onto their flagship, Stroud said. They'll kill you before you get past the airlock. Marcus smiled faintly. Not if they want to know why I'm not afraid of them. Vargas leaned forward. And why aren't you? Marcus's answer was quiet. Because I've met worse. The warning strike the next day, the Vokshar proved their threat was real. Without warning, a bright beam of energy shot from their flagship toward Aurora-5, a city on the southern continent. Home to 2 million people, vanished in a flash of light. The ground where it stood was nothing but glass. People screamed in the streets. The military scrambled to move civilians underground. In the war room, the president's voice shook with fury. They've just murdered millions. Marcus's voice was calm. Good. Now they've revealed themselves to the galaxy. We still have a chance. The message to the enemy using the planet's strongest transmitter. Marcus sent a simple message to the flagship. To High Commander Varek. I request a meeting on your ship. No weapons. No guards. I will come alone. The reply came within minutes. Agreed, but know this, human, you will not leave alive. Marcus only smiled. We'll see. The departure, the entire planet watched the broadcast of Marcus boarding the small shuttle. Cameras followed as he rose through the dark sky toward the massive alien ship. Children in shelters whispered to each other. Is he going to fight them? No one knew. Inside the beast, the docking bay of the Vokshar flagship was cold and silent. Alien soldiers stood in perfect rows, their armor black and sharp-edged. Their eyes glowed faint green. Marcus stepped out of his shuttle wearing a plain suit. No armor, no weapon. Only a small silver pin on his lapel, the symbol of the United Human Colonies. They escorted him down long corridors filled with strange symbols and shifting lights. Finally, massive doors opened to the throne chamber. The face of the enemy High Commander Varek was enormous, nearly 3 meters tall, with armored skin like stone and a crown of bone-like spines. His voice echoed through the chamber. You are Marcus Halle. You have come to beg for your world's survival? Marcus stopped in the center of the room. No, I came to see the face of the one making the biggest mistake of his life. A ripple of movement passed through the alien guards. Varek leaned forward. Do you know how many worlds I have burned? Yes, Marcus said. Do you know how many enemies thought humans were weak before they met us? The whisper. Varek laughed, a sound like grinding metal. Your courage will not save you. Marcus stepped closer until only a few steps separated them. Then he leaned forward and whispered something into Varek's ear, so soft that no one else could hear. Varek's smile faded. His eyes narrowed. Slowly, he raised a hand and signaled. To his guards, double the security. No one enters or leaves without my order. Marcus turned and walked out, his face calm. When Marcus returned to the shuttle, reporters tried to ask what he said to Varek. He only replied, We have one cycle. Use it well. President Vargas met him as he landed. Did you convince him not to attack? Marcus's eyes were unreadable. No, but I convinced him to think twice. Ending hook for next part that night. Alien scout ships were seen leaving human space, but no one knew why. And somewhere deep in an underground facility, Marcus requested access to a project so secret that even the president had only heard rumors. Its name was Project Iron Dawn. The alien flagship Dreadclaw hung in orbit like a mountain of steel, its shadow swallowing the sky. Inside its cold corridors, High Commander Varric sat alone in his war chamber, replaying Marcus Hale's voice in his mind, the human's words. That whisper still echoed. It was impossible. Humans were supposed to be primitive compared to the Vakshar Dominion. And yet, for the first time in decades, Varric felt something he didn't like to admit. Uncertainty. The shuttle returns Marcus. Hale had been gone from the flagship less than an hour. But on Aurora 5, that short time felt like a lifetime. In the war room, President Vargas stood over the holodisplay, staring at the fleet's positions. No change, reported General Stroud. They're still in formation. They haven't moved. Why? Vargas asked. Stroud shrugged. Either they're preparing for the next strike, or your diplomat actually got into their head. When Marcus stepped into the war room, every eye turned to him. His suit was spotless, his face calm. What did you say to him? Vargas asked. Immediately. Marcus simply replied, something he can't ignore. The plan to meet again. They've agreed to a formal meeting, Marcus continued. Face to face, in their council hall, tomorrow at 05. Stroud nearly choked. You're going back alone? Yes, Marcus said, but this time I'm not going to listen. I'm going to make him listen. Vargas frowned. What's the goal? Marcus's eyes narrowed. To convince him that attacking humans will cost him more than he can afford. The night before, Marcus spent the night in the government guest quarters, a simple steel-walled room. He did not sleep much. He sat at the desk, reviewing everything he knew about the Vakshar. They respected strength above all else. They saw diplomacy as weakness unless it came from a position of power. They never forgave insults. But they remembered fear. At 200 hours, Marcus called an old contact, a linguist who had once helped him with an alien dialect no human had mastered. I need a phrase, Marcus said. One the Vakshar High Command fears to hear. The linguist hesitated. You know that could be dangerous. If you say it wrong. I won't, Marcus said. Tell me. Back to the Dreadclaw. Next morning, Marcus boarded the shuttle again. This time, the military insisted on sending an escort fleet partway, but Marcus refused. One shuttle, one man, that's the point. The alien docking bay was the same as before, cold metal, rows of silent guards. But Marcus noticed something different. They were standing closer together, their weapons ready. Varric had indeed doubled security. They led Marcus through twisting corridors until he reached the council hall. The council hall, the room was enormous, its walls carved with glowing alien symbols. At the center was a circular platform surrounded by high thrones, each occupied by a Vakshar council member. At the highest seat sat Varric himself, his bone crown gleaming under the cold lights. The chamber was silent as Marcus stepped forward. Varric's voice thundered. Human, you asked for this audience. Speak, and choose your words well. The opening move. Marcus looked around the chamber. I see 12 council members, one for each civilization you've destroyed. Do you leave their thrones empty when you wipe them out? Or do you take them for yourselves? One counselor hissed, his sharp teeth bared. You speak out of turn. No, Marcus said. I speak the truth. And the truth is this. Every empire that came before you thought they were unstoppable. They all had fleets. They all had armies, and now they are dust. The interruption. Younger council member slammed his clawed hand on the railing. Your words are nothing. We have burned worlds far stronger than yours. Marcus's voice stayed calm. Then why am I here? The counselor froze. Marcus took a step closer to the center. If you could destroy us easily, you would have done it already. But you haven't. That tells me you're afraid of something. The whispers, meaning Varric's eyes narrowed. You think you know fear, human. Marcus met his gaze. I know yours. The chamber fell silent. Marcus then spoke the phrase the linguist had given him, a short line in the Vakshar's own ancient language. The sound of it made two counselors flinch. Veyrak's grip on his armrest tightened. "Where did you hear that?" Marcus didn't answer. Instead, he said, "You know what it means. You know who else heard it. Before they vanished." The power shift. The council began to whisper among themselves in their own tongue. Some looked uneasy, others angry. Veyrak raised a claw. "Leave us," he told the other counselors. They hesitated, but slowly filed out, leaving only Marcus and Veyrak. In the great hall. Private words. Veyrak leaned forward. "You speak of things forbidden, things no human should know." Marcus said quietly, "That's why I'm still alive. You can't kill me without admitting the truth to your own people." Veyrak's eyes burned. "What do you want?" Marcus took a breath. "I want you to walk away, leave human space, and free the worlds you've enslaved." Veyrak laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You think words can undo centuries of conquest?" "No," Marcus said, "but the people you've conquered, they're waiting for a reason to rise up. I can give them that reason." The threat beneath the words. Veyrak stood. His shadow fell over Marcus. "You dare threaten the Dominion?" Marcus looked up at him. "It's not a threat. It's a warning. You've fought enemies who wanted to win battles. Humans fight to survive. That makes us dangerous in ways you can't imagine." The test. Veyrak stepped back. "Prove it." Marcus smiled faintly. "I already have." From his pocket, he took out a small hollow projector and activated it. A glowing image appeared, the Vakshar fleet's own war plans. Stolen from their encrypted system. Veyrak froze. Marcus deactivated the device. "I walked into your flagship yesterday. You thought you had control. I left with your secrets. Imagine what I could take if I really tried." The decision. For a long moment, Veyrak said nothing. Finally, he gestured to the guards. "Return him to his shuttle." As they led Marcus away, one guard muttered in their alien tongue, "Why not kill him?" Veyrak's answer was cold. "Because the dead can't spread fear. But the living, they can." Back on Aurora 5 when Marcus returned, Vargas was waiting. "What happened?" Marcus sat down at the war room table. "They're not leaving yet." "But they're hesitating. That's our opening." Stroud frowned. "Opening for what?" Marcus's eyes shifted to the holomap of the galaxy. "For something they won't expect. I'm going to need access to your most secret files, all of them." The hidden project. Later that night, Marcus descended into an underground facility. Beneath the Capitol, massive steel doors slid open, revealing a hangar filled with strange machines and prototype ships. On the wall, in bold letters, were the words, "Project Iron Dawn." Marcus smiled for the first time that day. Perfect. Ending hook for next part. Above the planet, the Vakshar fleet shifted formation. Unknown to the humans, several smaller ships detached, heading toward deep space. Their destination was a mystery. But whatever it was, the countdown to war had already begun. The underground facility was colder than the surface, its walls lined with steel and humming power lines. Every footstep Marcus took echoed in the massive space. Above him, bright white lights cast long shadows over rows of strange machines. Half-built ships, and weapon systems that didn't look like anything in the human fleet. On the far side of the hangar, a huge blast door stood open. Inside was a command center filled with scientists, engineers, and military officers. They all stopped working when Marcus entered. President Vargas followed him in, looking tense. "This," she said quietly, "is Project Iron Dawn. Even I only learned its full scope last month." Marcus studied the schematics on the main screen. Rail cannons, stealth drives, plasma lances. He pointed to a massive structure on one blueprint. "And that?" The head scientist, a thin man, named Dr. Keller, stepped forward. "That is the Aegis Array. If completed, it can project a shield large enough to cover an entire city. But it's only 30% finished." "How long until it's operational?" Marcus asked. Keller hesitated. Weeks, maybe months. Marcus shook his head. We don't have weeks. The clock is ticking in orbit. The Vakshar fleet still hovered like a steel storm cloud, but their smaller ships had started to move. Surveillance reports showed several of them heading toward deep space, beyond human colonies. No one knew why. In the war room, General Stroud slammed his fist on the table. They're scouting our other worlds. Next, they'll hit supply lines. Marcus studied the holomap calmly. Or they're looking for something. What could they be looking for? Vargas asked. Marcus didn't answer. He was thinking about the phrase he'd spoken to Varric, a phrase that hinted at an old Vakshar fear. If that fear was real, it meant there were secrets hidden far from human space. Secrets even the Vakshar didn't want anyone to find. Marcus's plan that evening, Marcus called a private meeting with Vargas and Keller. Iron Dawn doesn't need to be finished, he said. We just have to make the Vakshar believe it's ready to wipe them out. Keller frowned. A bluff? That's dangerous. If they call it, they won't, Marcus interrupted. Because we'll give them a reason to believe we're desperate enough to use it. And how do you plan to do that? Vargas asked. Marcus leaned forward. By leaking just enough information for them to think they've stolen it. The leak 2 days later, the Vakshar intercepted a heavily encrypted human transmission. Inside were schematics for a fully operational Aegis array and details of a supposed superweapon built into the first Iron Dawn prototype ship. Varric studied the stolen data in his war chamber. They've built this in secret? He growled. A counselor beside him narrowed his eyes. It could be false. Varric shook his head. No, the humans are clever, but they would not risk bluffing. US with something this big. If this is true, they have a weapon that can challenge our fleet. The counselor looked uneasy. Then perhaps we should. No, Varric snapped. We will crush them before they can deploy it. An empty battlefield on Aurora 5. Marcus ordered all civilian ships to evacuate certain outer regions of the colony system. Make it look like we're clearing space for a counterattack, he told Stroud. Stroud raised an eyebrow. And when the aliens show up, Marcus's eyes were cold. That's when we spring the trap. He didn't explain the trap, not yet. The spy late one night. Marcus sat in his quarters, going over surveillance reports, when he noticed something odd. One of the facility's technicians had entered restricted areas twice without authorization. Marcus quietly followed him the next day. The man entered a maintenance tunnel, looking around nervously before pulling out a small transmitter. He began speaking in a low voice in an alien language. Marcus stepped out of the shadows. Tell Varric I said hello. The technician froze. Marcus disarmed him in one smooth motion and called security. The man was dragged away, screaming that the Vakshar would burn the planet. What the spy meant when Vargas heard about the spy, she looked shaken. If they have agents here, they've had agents here for years, Marcus said. The difference is, now I'm letting them hear what I want them to hear. You mean you let him send messages? Vargas asked. Marcus gave a thin smile. I fed in false data for days. The Vakshar now think our weapon will be ready in 72 hours. That's when they'll attack. And that's when we'll be ready for them. The alien reaction aboard the flagship. Varric received the final report from his spy network. 3 days, the report said. The humans will deploy their superweapon. In 3 days, Varric's claws tapped against his throne. Prepare the fleet. We strike before then. One of his captains hesitated. High Commander. The human Marcus Hawley. He's not like the others. Varric cut him off. He is one man. I command thousands. He cannot stop us. But deep inside, Varric remembered Marcus's calm eyes. And that ancient phrase, the hidden fleet while the Vakshar prepared for their strike. Marcus was preparing something else entirely. In a hidden hangar far from the main base. A small fleet of unmanned stealth ships was being readied. They were equipped not with superweapons, but with powerful jamming systems and holographic projectors. Once they arrive, Marcus told Keller, I want the Vakshar to see a fleet twice this size. Make them think they've walked into a wall. Keller nodded. And when they figure out the truth? Marcus looked toward the dark sky. By then, it will be too late. The enemy moves on the second night. Long-range sensors detected the Vakshar changing formation. Their smaller ships pulled back, and their main armada began to advance toward Aurora 5. Stroud called an emergency meeting. This is it. They'll be in range in 20 hours. Vargas turned to Marcus. Is your trap ready? Almost, Marcus said. There's just one thing left to do. A message to the enemy that evening. Marcus sent a direct transmission to the Dreadclaw. Varric appeared on the screen, his spines flaring. You dare contact me? The alien growled. I wanted you to know something, Marcus said calmly. When the history of this war is written, the Vakshar will be remembered for one thing, losing to a species you thought was weak. Varric's eyes narrowed. We will see who is weak human. Yes, Marcus said. We will. He ended the transmission without another word. The capture, the next day, just hours before the expected attack, a Vakshar scout ship was caught by human forces near the asteroid belt. Inside were 3 alien officers and a data core filled with their attack plans. When Marcus reviewed the data, his jaw tightened. They're not just coming for Aurora 5, he said. They're planning to hit our core colonies at the same time. Stroud swore under his breath. If they get past us here, they won't, Marcus said firmly. They're walking into the biggest mistake of their lives. The calm before the storm as the final hours ticked down. The people of Aurora 5 waited in shelters, the skies eerily quiet. Military crews worked around the clock, deploying the decoy fleet and activating the jamming systems. Marcus stood on the observation deck, watching the distant stars. Vargas joined him. Do you ever get used to this? She asked. Marcus shook his head. You never get used to waiting for the sky to fall. Ending hook for next part then. On the horizon, lights appeared, hundreds of them, moving fast. The Vakshar fleet had arrived. Marcus turned to Vargas. Tell the crews to hold their fire until my signal. In the darkness above, the largest war the human race had ever faced was about to begin. The Vakshar fleet emerged from the darkness like a wave of steel. Hundreds of massive warships spread out in formation, their sharp hulls catching the light of Aurora 5's twin suns. Smaller attack craft moved between them, fast and restless, like predators circling their prey. From the surface, the fleet looked like an iron storm swallowing the sky. The sight made even the most hardened soldiers feel the weight of fear. Inside the human war room, alarms blared. They're in range, reported Lieutenant Carver. ET at 2 weapons lock. 14 minutes. President Vargas stood at the central display. All defense systems online. Evacuations complete? Last transport left 10 minutes ago, Carver said. Vargas nodded. Good. Now let's hope Marcus's plan works. Marcus in the command center. Marcus Hole stood slightly apart from the others, his eyes fixed on the holographic projection of the Vakshar fleet. Calm, silent, he looked like a man who had already played this game before and knew every move. General Stroud paced beside him. I still think we should launch the first strike. Hit them before they get into full formation. Marcus shook his head. If we fire first, we confirm their belief that we're desperate. We let them move into the kill zone first. Then we close the door. Stroud frowned. And if they figure out it's a trap? Marcus glanced at him. Then I improvise. The kill zone far beyond Aurora 5's orbit, hidden among drifting asteroids, Marcus's decoy fleet waited. Each ship was unmanned, running on automated systems. They were loaded with holographic projectors to make them appear twice their actual size. In another sector, powerful jamming arrays sat on disguised freighters. These would scramble Vakshar targeting systems the moment Marcus gave the signal. Keller's. Engineers had worked without rest to ensure everything was ready. Once we activate the jammers, they'll think their systems are failing, Keller told Marcus. It should buy us a few minutes before they realize it's intentional. A few minutes is all I need, Marcus said. The enemy approaches on the bridge of the flagship Dreadclaw. High Commander Variuk watched the human planet grow larger on the viewscreen. Bring us to optimal firing range, he ordered. His second in command, a tall warrior named Krav, studied the tactical display. Human defenses are active but minimal. I see no signs of their so-called super weapon. They're hiding it, Variuk growled. Push forward. Prepare to send a message to their leaders. One final chance to surrender before we burn their world. Marcus makes his move in the war room, Carver reported. Enemy flagship transmitting. Marcus stepped forward. Put it through. Variuk's towering image filled the room. Humans, he said, his voice deep and cold. This is your last chance. Surrender your fleets, your worlds, and your lives will be spared. Resist, and you will be erased from history. Marcus answered without hesitation. You've made a mistake coming here. Variuk's eyes narrowed. Explain yourself. Marcus leaned slightly closer to the transmitter. You came to fight a war. You walked into an execution. Before Variuk could respond, Marcus gave a small hand signal to Carver. The jamming systems went live. The trap springs above Aurora 5. The Vakshar fleet's targeting systems flickered. Weapon locks failed. Radar screens turned into static. Communications between ships became filled with noise. On the Dreadclaw, Krav shouted, Our systems are failing. We've lost targeting data, Variuk snarled. How? Then from behind the asteroids, the decoy fleet emerged. On Vakshar scanners, it appeared to be an overwhelming force. Dozens of massive warships advancing in perfect formation. They have another fleet. Krav barked. They've been hiding it. Confusion and chaos. The Vakshar fleet tried to adjust, pulling into a defensive pattern. But without targeting systems and with false readings flooding their sensors, their formation began to break. Human. Warships, smaller and faster, darted in from multiple directions. They targeted engines, communications relays, and sensor arrays, disabling rather than destroying. Stroud's voice came over the comms. We're in. They don't know where. To fire, Marcus nodded. Keep them guessing. Don't let them regroup. The boarding operation while the battle raged. A single stealth shuttle slipped through the chaos. It carried Marcus and a small strike team of elite soldiers. Their target was the Dreadclaw itself. As they approached, Keller's holographic projectors disguised the shuttle as drifting debris. They slipped into one of the flagship's maintenance bays without resistance. The moment the shuttle touched down, Marcus stood. Remember, our mission isn't to destroy the ship. It's to end the war. Inside the beast again, the corridors of the Dreadclaw were darker this time, emergency lights flickering from the ongoing battle outside. Alien guards patrolled in pairs, but Marcus's team moved quickly and silently, neutralizing them without raising alarms. They reached the war chamber, the same place Marcus had stood days earlier. Now it was filled with tension, Variuk barking orders to his crew. Marcus stepped into the light. High Commander, Variuk turned sharply. You. Again, the confrontation. You think this trick will save your world? Variuk growled. It's not a trick, Marcus said. It's a lesson. You thought humans were prey. But we set the trap, and you walked right into it. Variuk's claws tightened on his command chair. I could kill you now. You could, Marcus said. But before you do, look at this. He activated a small device. A holographic feed appeared. The Vakshar homeworld, surrounded by dozens of ships. Variuk froze. Impossible. The shocking truth. These aren't human ships, Marcus said. They belong to the species you've conquered. The ones you thought were broken. We found them, freed them, and gave them a choice. They chose to surround your world. Veyrak's voice dropped to a dangerous growl. You threaten my people? No, Marcus said calmly. I'm giving you the same choice you gave us, surrender or watch your world burn. The weight of the moment for the first time, Veyrak didn't have an immediate answer. Around him, his crew looked at one another, uncertainty in their alien eyes. Marcus stepped closer. We don't want to destroy you, but if you keep coming, we will. Veyrak's jaw tightened. You will regret this. Maybe, Marcus said, but you'll regret it more if you ignore me. The withdrawal outside, the human fleet continued to push the Vakshar back. One by one, their ships began retreating toward the edge of the system. On the Dreadclaw, Veyrak finally gave the order. Signal the fleet. Fall back. Marcus didn't smile, but his eyes were steady. Good choice. Marcus leaves the flagship as the shuttle carried Marcus back to Aurora 5. Vargas's voice came over the comm. I don't know what you said in there, but the Vakshar are pulling out. Marcus looked out the viewport at the shrinking alien fleet. They're leaving. For now. Ending hook for next part, but in deep space, far from Aurora 5. A hidden Vakshar strike group was already on the move, heading for the human core worlds. The war was far from over. The message reached Earth at dawn. A Vakshar strike group, larger than anything seen before, had slipped past human defenses and was heading directly for the Sol system. They were moving fast, burning through space with one goal: to destroy humanity's home. The Council of Nations called an emergency session. Every screen in the chamber showed the same image: the alien fleet closing in on the outer planets. President Vargas stood at the center. This is it, she said. If we lose Earth, we lose everything. General Stroud's voice was grim. They're not coming to negotiate. They're coming to erase us. Marcus returns to Earth. Marcus Hala had barely stepped off his shuttle when he was rushed into the war room in Geneva. The walls trembled faintly from the constant roar of shuttles taking off, carrying civilians to deep shelters. You bought us time at Aurora 5, Vargas said as he entered. Now we need more than time. We need victory. Marcus studied the tactical display. How long until they're in firing range of Earth? Carver, now promoted to fleet coordinator, answered, 30 hours. Maybe less, Marcus nodded slowly. Then we have 30 hours to turn the tide. A dangerous plan in the war room. Marcus explained his idea. The Vakshar expect us to defend Earth directly. If we do that, we're fighting on their terms. But if we hit them before they reach the inner system, we force them into a battle they didn't prepare for. Stroud frowned. You want to meet them in deep space? That's suicide. They outgun us. Marcus pointed at the map. Here, the Kepler relay corridor. It's a narrow stretch of space surrounded by dense debris fields. Large fleets can't maneuver well there. If we trap them inside, their numbers won't matter. Keller leaned forward. We'd need perfect timing. Too early, and they'll avoid the corridor. Too late, and they'll break through. Marcus's voice was calm. Then we make sure our timing is perfect. Preparing for battle, the next hours were a blur of activity. Human fleets were recalled from outer colonies. Evacuation ships carried the last civilians from Mars and Luna. Engineers armed orbital platforms with every missile and railgun they could find. Marcus personally visited the crews of the strike ships. He spoke simply, without grand speeches. You've seen what they do. You know why we fight. Hold your line. Trust your team, and we'll see Earth again. For many, those words were enough. The enemy advances in the void beyond Neptune. The Vakshar strike group sliced through space. In a tight formation. On the flagship Ironclaw, Admiral Zurath studied the human defense reports intercepted by his scouts. They know we're coming. Krav, now serving under Zarath, said. Let them know, Zarath replied. Fear is a weapon too. When they See our ships blot out their sun. They will understand resistance is pointless. But Zareth didn't know Marcus was waiting for him. The first contact 27 hours later. Human scouts made visual contact. Small corvette-class ships darted in and out of the debris fields. Baiting the Vakshar forward, Zareth ordered pursuit, confident the humans were fleeing. But the more he advanced, the narrower the space became until his ships were forced into a long column to avoid collisions with drifting rock. From his command chair, Marcus watched on the tactical display. "They're in the corridor," he said quietly. "Close the gates." The trap closes from hidden positions at both ends of the corridor. Human heavy cruisers moved in, their engines burning bright. Massive energy nets activated, cutting off the exits. Zareth's fleet was trapped. The alien admiral's voice thundered over his bridge. "Break through now!" But as the Vakshar tried to turn, human minefields came to life, scattering explosions through the debris. The battle begins. The first volley came from the human side. Dozens of missile trails lit the dark, followed by the flash of railgun slugs tearing into alien hulls. Vakshar ships answered with plasma fire, the heat so intense it turned nearby asteroids into molten fragments. Both sides lost ships in the opening minutes, but the narrow battlefield made it impossible for the Vakshar to bring their full strength to bear. Marcus coordinated the attack from the human flagship Resolute. "Target their lead ships. Force them to slow down. If they stop, they block the ships behind them." One by one, alien warships at the front of the column were disabled, creating a traffic jam of wreckage and panicked boarding actions. Knowing the enemy was struggling, Marcus ordered the next phase, boarding. Small, fast assault craft darted between the immobilized alien vessels, cutting through hulls and disabling power systems. On the Resolute's comms, soldiers reported fierce hand-to-hand combat. The Vakshar fought with brutal strength, but the humans had speed and desperation on their side. Zareth strikes back. Admiral Zareth was no fool. Realizing the corridor was a death trap, he ordered his heaviest ships to form a spearhead. They concentrated all firepower on a single section of the energy net, slowly tearing it apart. Marcus saw the readings. "They're breaking through. We need to push them back now, or this is over." The decisive move. Marcus took a risk. He ordered the Resolute and 2 other heavy cruisers directly into the path of the alien spearhead. It was a move no sane commander would make, putting his largest ships directly in front of the enemy's most powerful weapons. "Fire everything," Marcus ordered. The Resolute shook violently as plasma bolts slammed into its shields, but its railguns hammered the enemy flagship in return. In minutes, both sides were heavily damaged, but the alien advance slowed. The turning point. At the same time, Keller's engineers activated a hidden weapon, graviton projectors built into the asteroid walls. The beams created sudden, crushing pressure zones inside the corridor, throwing alien ships off course and into the debris. Within minutes, the Vakshar formation was in chaos. Some ships collided with the asteroid walls, others with each other. The spearhead collapsed. The final Stanzareth refused to retreat. "We are Vakshar, we do not run," he roared. But when his flagship's engines failed in human boarding, teams breached the bridge. The battle was over. Marcus stepped onto the bridge of the Ironclaw. Zareth glared at him. "You think this is victory?" The alien spat. "It's survival," Marcus said. "And it's only over if you want it to be." The surrender word spread quickly through the Vakshar fleet. Their admiral captured, their ships disabled. One by one, alien captains signaled their surrender. When the energy nets dropped, only wreckage and drifting ships remained in the corridor. Aftermath. Back on Earth, crowds filled the streets, cheering the return of the fleet. But Marcus didn't celebrate. He knew the Vakshar still had forces scattered across the galaxy, and the war wasn't truly over. President Vargas asked him privately, "Do you think they'll come back?" Marcus looked out at the stars. "They will. But next time we'll be ready. Hook for final part. Far away, in the Vakshar home system, a new leader was already rising, one who believed peace was weakness and vengeance was the only answer. The final clash was yet to come. The galaxy was holding its breath. The peace forged in battle was fragile, like glass ready to shatter. Far beyond the stars, in the heart of the Vakshar home system, a new power rose. A leader called Jarkesh, fierce and unforgiving, had taken command. His voice echoed through the war chambers. We will not bow, we will not surrender. Humanity's time ends now. The warning spread quickly. Earth's warning on Earth. The news reached President Vargas like a thunderclap. The war room was tense as Marcus Halle stood by her side, staring at the holomap. Jarkesh is different, Marcus said quietly. He wants total war, not peace. If he attacks, it won't just be a fight. It will be a war for survival. Vargas nodded grimly. Then we prepare for the last fight. The final fleet, the human fleet, was ready. Ships gathered from every corner of the galaxy, old and new, fast and powerful. The Resolute was back in command, its hull marked with scars of past battles. Marcus addressed the fleet's leaders over secure comms. This isn't just about defending Earth anymore. It's about protecting every human world out there. We fight for every life, every future. There was no applause, only steady voices of agreement. The calm before the storm days passed in uneasy silence. Civilians evacuated deeper into shelters. Soldiers checked weapons and prayed in their own ways. Marcus stood on the observation deck of the Resolute, looking at the black stars beyond the viewport. Vargas joined him. Are we ready? She asked. Marcus smiled faintly. Ready or not, it's coming. The enemy approaches in the distance. The Vakshar fleet moved like a dark storm, a massive force led by Jarkesh himself aboard the dreadnought. Shadowfang, Jarkesh's voice thundered through his ship. Crush them. Show no mercy. Let humanity remember the true power of the Vakshar. His fleet surged forward, their weapons glowing with deadly energy. The opening clash. The first shots rang out in deep space, between the asteroid belts near Mars. Human cruisers dodged plasma fire, returning volleys with railguns and missiles. Explosions lit the darkness as ships collided or were torn apart. Marcus directed the battle with calm focus. Keep tight formations. Protect the carriers and shield Earth at all costs. A costly battle. The fight was brutal and fierce. Human ships fell, one after another, to the relentless Vakshar assault. On the Resolute, alarms screamed as hull breaches opened. Marcus barked orders to damage control teams. We can't lose this ship, he said. If the fleet falls apart here, humanity falls with it. The turning point in the heart of the battle, Marcus spotted a weakness. The Shadowfang's shields were flickering. Target the dreadnought, he commanded. Concentrate all firepower. Human ships poured plasma and missiles into the Shadowfang. Its shield struggled, then failed. The boarding of the Shadowfang. Marcus led a boarding team onto the Shadowfang. As they fought through corridors, alien soldiers attacked fiercely, but the humans pushed forward with determination. In the command room, Marcus faced Jarkesh. You lost, Marcus said. Surrender now, Jarkesh snarled. This is not the end. They clashed in brutal combat, claws and guns, will and strength. The end of Jarkesh. After a fierce fight, Marcus subdued Jarkesh. The alien leader fell to his knees. Defeated. Your war is over, Marcus said quietly. Jarkesh glared, but silence followed. The aftermath, with their leader captured and flagship crippled. The Vakshar fleet began to retreat. The human fleet, battered but unbroken, regrouped and returned to Earth's orbit. A new beginning back on Earth. Celebrations erupted, but Marcus remained watchful. Today we survived, he said. But tomorrow we must rebuild. We must prepare, because the galaxy will never be quiet for long. President Vargas smiled. Then we'll face it together. Final words. Marcus looked to the stars, knowing the fight had changed humanity. Forever. We were pushed to the edge, he said softly, and we stood tall. This is our story. The story of the human spirit, unbroken, unbowed, unstoppable. The last war was over, but the legend of humanity's strength had only just begun.